If you're a new or returning player to Deadlock, then there's one thing that you're probably underutilizing, and that is active items, which are items that you buy that grant you an additional ability, like Healing Rite, Cold Front, Silence Wave, and Unstoppable. These are all items that do take a lot of skill to use because they're adding a whole extra ability to your character. It's one more thing to worry about, and I know that when I was a new player, I was really just not using these at all because I was so focused on a bunch of other aspects of the game. But active items are one of the best things in the game that you should learn how to use because there are many characters that synergize super duper well with active items. And so today I want to discuss some of the best active items in the game, as well as a bunch of tips for using active items in general and these specific active items, their synergies on characters, just a whole bunch of stuff that you really want to know. Now if you want a video where I give you the rundown on how every item in the game works, I do have that up on the channel, so go check that out, as well as my playlist linked down below of all my other Deadlock guides. So let's get started by talking about the fundamentals of active items. So every character can have up to 4 active items at a time, and you can see those items as abilities next to my main core set of abilities here. So I have my 4 regular abilities on Lash, and then my 4 active item slots. And these are just extra keybinds, and when I activate them, I will activate the active ability, whether it's Healing Rite, which grants me a healing ability here, Cold Front, Silence Wave, or Unstoppable, just like this. And there are many other active items that I can slot in here that will be beneficial to my character. You can also move around the keybinds of your active items, and this actually isn't something I knew for the first couple hundred hours of playing because it's not really that intuitive, but you can actually, if you hold tab here, you can actually click and drag your active items to different slots on your keybinds here. So I would definitely recommend, when it comes to active items, to just set a specific keybind and have that be a consistent keybind for each active item that you use. So for example, whenever I buy Cold Front, no matter what character I'm playing, I always bind Cold Front to C. So that way, I can build up muscle memory of actually, using the Cold Front, right? Oh, I have Cold Front on this character, I want to press C just immediately after Lash Slam, just like that, and just get that as a core part of my gameplay loop, because having consistency helps use these active items a million times better. So for example, I do have my Healing Rite here on Z, I might move my Unstoppable to X because I like having Unstoppable on X, and then, okay, Silence Wave on 4 might be a little bit finicky, I don't normally run this setup, so maybe just for this specific example, I'll put Silence Wave on Z and move my Healing Rite over to 4, since it is kind of the most passive of my active abilities here. So I definitely recommend just designating some keybinds, whatever works for you, so that way you can practice these a whole lot better. So now I want to run through some of the most powerful active items in the game. These are really common, very good purchases that you'll see a lot in your matches and that you should absolutely get used to using. There are a whole lot of applications for all of these active items, and so I just want to dive into a little bit more detail on how they work, starting with Healing Rite, which is the most common early game active item. This gives you a very powerful healing ability in the early game. It gives you 300 total HP regen, and this actually scales with your spirit power. So as you level up your character and as you buy spirit items like maybe extra spirit, the healing will go up. As you can see, it just went up by 16. So this is a very, very good item, but the way it works is you can either cast it on an ally or yourself, so I can give it to my Infernus player over there, or I can give it to myself. And it will give you that healing over a long period of time. So if I go ahead and take a bunch of damage on my character here and then pop Healing Rite, you can see that all of this green HP is slowly being healed back up. And this isn't HP that's already been healed back up, this is the HP that Healing Rite is going to heal by the end of its duration. However, if the duration is cut short, then, yeah, it will stop healing me, and I won't get any of that extra healing. So when you use Healing Rite, you want to make sure that it is in between fights and you are not in danger of being shot. So try and play around cover. You still want to play somewhat near your lane so that you can take advantage of the souls that you get from creeps, right? You don't want to miss out on the creep wave, but with the Healing Rite, in your downtime between actual fights, you can go around just collecting boxes and doing things that are still productive, but that don't put you in danger of being shot. And you can still be shot by NPCs, by the way, so one thing you can actually do is you can take camps while using your Healing Rite, or even take Sinner's Sacrifices while using your Healing Rite. Something I'll do is I'll pop my Healing Rite preemptively and then just go take a couple of Sinner's Sacrifices, and it basically covers the cost of my Sinner's Sacrifices. So there are a lot of use cases for Healing Rite. It is one of the most common active items in the game. This should be one of the first items that you learn how to use, and don't be afraid to give it to your teammates either. If you see that you and your teammate are generally just taking a bunch of damage on the lane, Healing Rite should be one of the first things that you think about picking up, and And if you have a lot of HP, but your teammate is struggling, then you can give them the healing Rite. Again, just make sure that it's in between fights. If your teammate is in the fight actively, don't give them the healing Rite, because it'll just evaporate and you won't get any value out of it. The next active item I want to talk about is Debuff Remover. This is another one of the absolute best items in the game. There are a whole lot of use cases for it. It's one of the best counterplay items in the game versus a whole slew of characters. So this has two components. It has the passive component and the active component. The passive component is that you just get 30% debuff resist, and that means that you will basically, let's say you have a damage over time effect applied to you. That'll expire 30% faster. You get stunned. That'll expire 30% faster. You get silenced. That'll expire 30% faster. You catch the drift, right? So that's what debuff resist is. It's very powerful. This is one of the best sources of debuff resist in the game. And it also gives you 100 health, which is very nice. The active component allows you to purge all non-ultimate negative effects currently applied to you, and if you do remove an effect, then you will heal yourself and gain a movement speed bonus. So that healing can actually really come in clutch and save your life. It has saved my life on multiple occasions, but also just being able to remove debuffs is super powerful. So let's say you've got this Infernus, right? He shoots at you, builds up the fire damage. You can remove that with Debuff Remover. It's a very good counter versus all kinds of damage over time effects. It's also really good at cleansing effects that have a delay, like 7 stun. So you can put the stun on me here, and then I can just whoop, debuff remove it, and guess what? I'm not going to get stunned at all. And this also works against stuff like the Lightning Scroll item and Bebop's bombs. So you want to make sure to get Debuff Remover against these characters if you have a lot of them on the enemy team. Another very powerful thing is that it also cleanses effects from certain items. So there are a lot of items in this game that will apply debuffs to you. For example, Spirit Burn here. It has a 20-second cooldown, and when it's applied to you, it applies a massive damage over time and also 70% healing reduction. That is huge. So if you know the enemies have Spirit Burn, you can, well, just buy Debuff Remover, cleanse the Spirit Burn, and you actually end up countering a 6k item with a 3k item. So that's something powerful you can do. If you're playing someone like Calico or Mina, who's dependent on movement abilities, and the enemies buy Slowing Hex or Silence Wave for you, you can also buy Debuff Remover to counter these items as well. And of course, it's a little bit less efficient to counter a Slowing Hex with a Debuff Remover in terms of the cost, but in terms of not dying, which is the most important thing, yeah, it's still absolutely worth it. And Debuff Remover is just really good at countering a whole bunch of this crowd control. So this should be another one of the first active items that you need to learn how to use. Debuff Remover is an incredible tool that will save your life. In a similar vein, Unstoppable is another upgrade from the Debuff Reducer Tier 2 item, and this has a similar stats to Debuff Remover in terms of its passive stats. It gives you 20% debuff resist, 75 bonus health, but it also allows you to have this active component where you will suppress negative status effects and become immune to stun, silence, sleep, root, and disarm for 5 seconds. So this will basically make you uncrowd controllable. You will just any crowd control that the enemies try to hit you with, Dynamo ult, Lash ult, 7 stun, etc., just won't work. You cannot be controlled. You are unstoppable, and this is an incredible item to use when you want to commit to something. So this is often used right before a very impactful ultimate when you know that the enemies have stuns that they are saving for your ultimate. So let's say I'm playing Lash here and I want to get my ult off, right? Well, I can do this, and I can, well, try and use that, but let's say there's a Wraith or a Viper or somebody who just hits me with the stun, right? Hits me with the Wraith ult, hits me with the Viper Petrify, whatever. Well, all of a sudden my ultimate has been wasted and I might even potentially die. So what I can do is I can buy Unstoppable, I can press that right before ulting, and now this ultimate is all but guaranteed, at least on the side of me actually being able to cast it. Of course, the enemies have their own methods of counterplay to dodge the actual ultimate, but they cannot stop me from using the ultimate. Another great example is using it on a 7 right before his ultimate to get 5 guaranteed seconds of Stormcloud coverage, which is a lot harder to counter. So this is another great use case for Unstoppable. In general, just if you want to commit to something, it doesn't even necessarily have to be an ultimate. If you want to commit to a dive, for example, Unstoppable is a good tool to make that happen when you know that the enemies have just a metric crap ton of crowd control for you. They've got Moan Krill ult, they've got Dynamo ult, they've got 7 stun, and stuff like that. Now, before we move on, if you guys are enjoying this type of content, then please make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos like this from me. It's free, and it helps out a ton. Anyways, back to the video. Next, let's talk about Cultist Sacrifice, which is an item that you do see a lot of people using. This has a lot of great stats. So first of all, the passive component. It gives you 2 out-of-combat regen, and more importantly, it gives you 30% extra weapon damage and bullet resist versus NPCs. This is an upgrade from monster rounds, which in and of itself is a fantastic early game item. So it's already already building from something strong. But Cultist Sacrifice has an active component where every 250 seconds you get to target an enemy NPC and consume it for 150% bonus souls, and you get this massive buff for 160 seconds. And you can get fire rate, bonus health, and ability range, which will scale up throughout the match, so you get more fire rate and bonus health the longer the match goes on. This is a very powerful item on a lot of different characters for a couple of different reasons. First of all, just the passive stats make it much easier to farm the jungle because you do more damage to and you take less damage from NPCs. But also, when you actually target a minion like this, and you want to use this either on tier 3 minions or on lane creeps, because those will give you the highest amount of souls, right? So use this on a tier 3 minion, we get a lot of extra souls that already works towards paying itself off, and now I have a fire rate, health, and range buff. So if your character needs these stats, then this is an incredibly efficient way to do it. You just have to make sure that you are on top of actually getting your buff consistently, and you might want to get some items that help you out with that. For example, if your character naturally has the need for cooldown reduction, then you might want to get Transcendent cooldown to go along with Cultist Sacrifice. That way you lower the cooldown of the ability. As you can see with Transcendent cooldown, we've gone all the way down to a 175 second cooldown on the Cultist Sacrifice, meaning this has almost 100% uptime, which is really, really good. And if we really wanted to max this out, then we could also get superior duration, although usually this is a bit overkill, and the applications for getting all three of these items on a character are very niche, but that is an option. And on a character like Pocket, who I've been playing a lot recently, these stats are a great way to just boost up a lot of the stats of your character. Normally Pocket likes to go for a lot of spirit options, but their gun is still really good, and this fire rate buff and also the damage increase from weapon investment, we get 20% extra weapon damage from this, it comes in really handy, and it also makes Pocket absurdly good at farming camps once they've got this online, and you stack it with their other abilities. So it is a really good combo, and the extra health can't go wrong, and then the range as well is super duper good on Pocket because it makes it easier to hit all of their abilities, including, importantly, the Affliction. So these are just some very generally nice stats on Pocket, and there are a lot of characters that this item is good on. You might want to consider this for your next build. Next, let's talk about one of the absolute most popular active items in the game, and that is Cold Front. This item is genuinely incredible. It is super cost efficient and super powerful on just multitudes of characters who want to get up close and combo a lot of spirit damage together. So this item passively gives you 6% spirit resist, that's nice, but what we really want this item for is the active effect. With a 24-second cooldown here, you can release an expanding ice blast that deals spirit damage and slows targets it hits. It does 101 spirit damage, and this does have spirit scaling, so if I buy this and then I get like improved spirit, we can make the damage go up. But the 60% movement slow is also a very important component of this. It is such an efficient way to slow people down. It is both potent and long-lasting. If we just compare this to Mystic Slow is half as effective as Cold Front. It is a 30% movement slow with a 2-second duration. Now there are of course situations where Mystic Slow is more applicable. If you are able to consistently hit spirit damage on the enemies from afar, then Mystic Slow can be good. But Cold Front is just, in terms of bang for your buck, the absolute best slow you can get on a character like Lash, Calico, Abrams, anyone who wants to be up close. And the great thing is, this also combos with a lot of abilities on so many different characters. For example, with Pocket, you can cast your Briefcase, and then you can Cold Front out of it, and both bursts will hit the enemy at the same time, and then they'll be slowed, and you can easily hit them with whatever you want to hit them with as your follow-up damage. So that is a really good combo. You can also get it on Lash, and you can slam down and then hit the Cold Front immediately after, and usually that is a good way to hit the Cold Front on somebody. You can play Calico, go into Ava, pop your Cold Front, and then it's way easier to hit your follow-up attacks just like this. You can even get it on a character like the Doorman. You can Cold Front, and then it's easier to hit your cart for that juicy stun, or just hit your ultimate as well, and they will be slowed while they are inside your ultimate, so it'll be even harder for them to actually escape. So the applications for Cold Front are wide-ranging. This is a very effective item, and it's another one that I absolutely recommend learning. Next, let's talk about some hard crowd control items that you can buy that are really good against specific heroes. These are counterplay items through and through. Starting with Slowing Hex. This is a very cheap and effective counterplay item versus characters like Calico and Mina, and the reason for this is because it silences movement-based items and abilities for 3.5 seconds, and it also provides a decent slow as well, although the slow isn't really as impactful as the silence part. So this is so effective against characters like Calico and Mina because they are very dependent on their movement abilities to stay alive and actually do things to the enemies, right? So if I go ahead and cast this Slowing Hex on Calico, look at what happens to her abilities down here. 3 of them are disabled for 3.5 seconds. She can't slash, she can't ult, and she can't turn into Ava either. So yeah, she's really just out of luck for those 3.5 seconds unless she is already in an advantageous position or she buys a debuff remover. Those are really her only 2 options. And so Slowing Hex is super good against her. And similarly against Mina, it shuts down her movement ability, which is her primary form of staying alive. And so if she can't use that, she's a very squishy character, she's usually out of position, and she will die. So you want to buy this item against characters that are super movement focused. And you don't necessarily have to buy it all the time, but if they are being particularly annoying or you just want to secure a kill on them easier, Slowing Hex is absolutely fantastic versus characters like these. Silence Wave is another very good item that just silences all of an enemy's abilities for 3.25 seconds, and it also lowers their spirit resist and their spirit power for much longer. So this is really good on spirit characters who want to silence other characters out of their abilities before they are able to use them. So let's say that I am playing Lash, right? And I want to force Dynamo to get hit by my ultimate, because normally Dynamo will use his Quantum Entanglement to dodge the ultimate, or a Slam, right? Could be either or. Well, normally I would just have to play mind games with him and try and bait out the Quantum Entanglement, but with Silence Wave, I can just, wow, silence, and then ult, and he can't do anything about it. And also, he's going to take way more spirit damage from me because I lower his resistances, and I also lower his spirit power, so he does less damage to me too. So it is a really good counterplay item versus characters like that, or characters that are just dependent on their abilities in general, right? Another thing you could do is if you want to counter somebody like Lash, who is super ability dependent, you can Silence Wave him, and then he can't even use his grapple to escape, he can't use his whip, he can't use anything for 3.25 seconds, so it's a very good way to counter him. Another excellent use case is on Haze. You can silence somebody, hit them with the ultimate, and they will have a very difficult time getting away, because a lot of enemies will use their abilities to escape a Haze ult, whether it's Lash's grapple, Dynamo's Quantum Entanglement, Viscus's cube, etc. This just completely shuts that down and makes it a million times easier to hit your ult, right? You can just sleep, Silence Wave, and then pop, 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 and they will explode. Knockdown is somewhat similar. It is really good at just shutting down flying characters and ultimates that you want to stay far away from. So this is a really good counter to things like 7 ult, Lash ult, flying characters like Vindicta and Great Talon, stuff like that, because you can put it on them from really far away. Look at this ability range. I can keep going, and only back here do I finally get out of range of Infernus here, but I can put this on him from all the way over there. It does come with a delay, but if someone happens to be in the air, right, they happen to be flying, then yeah, they will get knocked out of the air and they'll actually be stunned for longer because of knockdown special effect, right? So that is super duper useful, and also the stun will obviously cancel a lot of abilities, right? So that's where it comes in handy, canceling 7 ult, canceling Lash ult, stuff like that. It can be countered by Debuff Remover and Unstoppable, so I think it's picked up a little bit less than, you know, stuff like Silence Wave and Slowing Hex, because it is just a bit easier to counter, it's a bit more telegraphed, but it is still very useful in situations like that. Now, for the last couple of items I want to talk about, I want to discuss movement abilities, because you can just strap a movement ability to any character you want. There are a couple of good choices for that. First of all, Warpstone is a very applicable and accessible movement ability that you can add to pretty much anybody, and it is an ability that allows you to teleport a short distance away, and after teleporting you gain a lot of extra bullet resist, 40% bullet resist for 6 seconds. So this is really good because it allows you to dodge a lot of big attacks, or lay chase to an enemy and get up to, like, for example, a high ground that you otherwise normally wouldn't be able to access. So it has a wide range of applications, and it also has good synergy with a lot of characters. For example, just as one example here, we can use it mid-Haze ult to teleport and keep the damage on somebody. Or we could use it with a Dynamo Ormo and Krill ult to get right on top of somebody and hit the Singularity. So that is another good use case for it. It allows you to blitz somebody. Or you can use it to quickly dart behind cover and dodge an incoming telegraphed attack like Lash's ultimate. So it is a very useful item to buy. And the big brother of Warpstone is Phantom Strike, which is an ability that allows you to teleport directly to an enemy and also apply a slew of debuffs to them. So you disarm them, you apply a movement speed debuff to them, you deal 82 damage to them, but also if they are in the sky, you pull them to the ground, kind of similar to Knockdown like we discussed earlier. So this item allows you to get right on top of an enemy from farther away too. Look at how far away I can cast this, right? And I can get on this Infernus, and then we can use an ability like this and just absolutely pummel them. So this is another item that you will see a lot on characters like Abrams or Mo and Krill, who want to get in close quarters to pound enemies with their abilities. So Phantom Strike is really, really good on those characters. It is a little less flexible than Warpstone because it can't be used defensively, not nearly as consistently. Warpstone allows you to teleport in any direction you want to, whereas Phantom Strike can only be used directly on an enemy, so there is that to consider, but Phantom Strike is fantastic. And then there is Majestic Leap, which is used frequently on Lash, Pocket, and Warden, and this allows them to engage very effectively with their ultimates and their other abilities, right? With Lash, it gets you a great distance into the sky so you can slam down or use your Death Slam. With Warden, it allows you to catapult yourself into the enemy team for an ultimate, and for Pocket, it allows them to jump up in the sky, carry a lot of momentum with their barrage, and then slam down for an affliction. So it is another very good item, and it is super good for map traversal as well. It is more niche in its application because it really has to synergize with the character's kit. You won't see Haze players buying this, for example, but it is a really good item nonetheless. Now, there are a bunch more items that I haven't discussed in this video that are still fantastic that you do want to be using when you are more skillful in your Deadlock career. For example, Infuser and Vampiric Burst are fantastic options on a lot of characters. Colossus is great. Divine Barrier can be good on supports. There are so many active items in this game. And again, if you want to see the full list of active items and just a general breakdown of how they work, I have my full item guide linked down below. But yeah, we would be here all day if I continued talking about all of the active items, so I just really wanted to touch on some of the most important highlights that you want to learn how to use, as well as some very good applications for how to use them. So hopefully this video helps you out. As a new player, it is important to get familiar with these active items. It will take time and it will be difficult at first, but I promise you it is one of the best things you can do to elevate your overall experience in Deadlock. Active items are super helpful and a core component of a lot of builds. So if you found this video to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe for more guides like this from me. But yeah, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.